This week on Africa Weekly, we travel to Zimbabwe, where a recently revived commuter train is offering a more affordable mode of transport. And we take you to Kenya, where vegetation blocking the main entry to Africa's largest lake has been hitting the local economy hard as fishermen struggle to get out on the water. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week.
Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected. Thank you.
Nigeria's presidential election results were announced early on Wednesday, confirming President Muhammadu Buhari's second four-year term. Buhari's rival Atiku Abubakar from the People's Democratic Party, who lost by 3.9 million votes, called the election a sham and has vowed to contest the results. Macky Sall has been re-elected President of Senegal for a second term, according to provisional results. Figures released by the National Vote Counting Commission showed Sall won Sunday's first round outright, picking up 58.27% of the vote, with his nearest rival, former Prime Minister Idrissa Seck, only mustering 20.5%. Opposition candidates said they rejected the result but would not contest it. At least 20 people were killed and dozens injured at Cairo's main train station on Wednesday after a train crashed, derailed and caught fire. The engine appeared to have slammed into the buffers at the end of the track at high speed, sparking a major blaze that blackened the walls of the Ramses station.
I was outside and saw a lot of smoke coming from inside the station. We hurried to the station, but security prevented us from entering. When we finally entered, we found the train burning.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi called on his government to carry out an investigation and hold those responsible to account. The country's transportation minister resigned hours after the incident.
I announce a state of emergency across the country for 1 year.
Sudan's decision to declare a year-long state of emergency last Friday has been met with widespread criticism, both at home and abroad. Western powers, led by Washington, rebuked Khartoum for what they called a return to military rule. President Bashir announced a slew of measures, including banning any kind of unauthorized demonstrations, and gave sweeping powers to security forces to carry out raids and searches. Thousands of students joined a growing protest movement in Algeria against ailing President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's bid for a fifth term. 81-year-old Bouteflika's decision to seek re-election in the April 18 vote sparked angry demonstrations throughout the country since the announcement on February 10th. On Tuesday, it was the turn of university students to vent their anger at Bouteflika's bid to extend his 20 years in power.
No to the fifth mandate. We offer a change of system for our children and their future, and we hope the authorities will understand that.
According to the World Bank, 1/3 of Algeria's population of 15 million are young people under the age of 20, and they are those worst hit by unemployment. Despite days of protest, Bouteflika's campaign director said the president's candidacy would be formally submitted on Sunday. Bouteflika flew to Switzerland for what the presidency called routine medical checks ahead of the election. European and Arab leaders held their first summit on Sunday in the Egyptian Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. European Union countries viewed the summit as a way to protect their traditional diplomatic, economic and security interests, while China and Russia moved to fill a vacuum left by the United States. The European Council President Donald Tusk acknowledged the differences between both sides, but said neighbours had more at stake than distant powers. Both sides agreed the need to work together to manage migrant and refugee flows, as well as fight extremists. Most of the leaders of the 22-member Arab League attended, except for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, whose country was suspended from the League over the civil war, and Sudan's Omar al-Bashir, who is grappling with protests at home.
Waiting to catch the so-called Freedom Train. Passengers gather at this informal station in Cowdrey Park each day to take the only commuter train in Zimbabwe. The 20-kilometer ride ends in the country's second largest city, Bulawayo, which used to be its industrial hub. The government revived the route in an effort to provide a crucial lifeline for struggling commuters.
So let's just say the NRZ came like a savior to the people of Bulawayo, because now you can work for something more reasonable. You don't have to work for transport only.
The service was suspended for 13 years under former President Robert Mugabe's rule and was only revived in November. Zimbabwe, once known as the breadbasket of Africa, saw its economy crippled during Mugabe's decades-long rule, contributing to his downfall in 2017. Despite new leadership under President Emmerson Mnangagwa, the cost of living has continued to skyrocket, boosting demand for the newly reinstated train from commuters desperate to make it to work.
It's $1.50 is very expensive for us. So on a train it's better because it's 50 cents. 50 cents is less. So you can have change and you can have some bread, or you can buy bread and vegetable for your children at home sometimes. But things are very, very tough now for us. It's not easy for us to live.
Though the train provides much needed relief for commuters, some worry the service will not last and are urging government to think about a long-term strategy.
With the moment, with the challenges we have, maybe if they were going to reduce the price of fuel so that this combi can also adjust on the price of fuel.
The aged train system might be overcrowded and only transport passengers to and from County Park once a day. But for now, it's the best and only option they've got.
Nets piled into their wooden boats, these fishermen are ready to set sail as the sun sets on Africa's largest lake. But once again, a thick green carpet of water hyacinth clogs Kisumu Bay, blocking the fishermen from reaching the deep waters to fish.
We are suffering because as we are unable to go out and fish, we are unable to get food.
Hyacinth is a floating aquatic plant native to South America, but it's become a global freshwater scourge after being inadvertently transported worldwide. It's believed to have first reached Lake Victoria in the 1990s, floating down the lake's western tributary, the Kagera. Since then it has seriously hampered fishing boats and other vessels on Lake Victoria.
Many of our colleagues have had problems on the lake while fishing. They get stuck there. In the recent past, we've had cases where some fishermen got stuck on the lake, and the Kenyan government had to send a chopper to rescue them.
Lake Victoria is shared with Tanzania and Uganda, but on the Kenyan side alone, hyacinth covers roughly 5% of the water's surface. The plant affects fish reproduction, and fishermen are seeing their catches evaporate.
In the Victoria, the fish was small because there are some weeds in the Victoria. So it forced some people to bring fish from China and some to bring from cages because the demand of fish was high, but the supply was low.
At the market in Kisumu, the gap between local demand and the lake's supply is filled by frozen tilapia fillets, imported from China. But these were banned by the president last year, a ban yet to be enacted. According to experts, this will only worsen the supply-side deficit between Kenya's fish production of about 140,000 tonnes and the population's demand of about 500,000 tonnes.
Africa's biggest film festival opened in Ouagadougou on Saturday, marking its 50th anniversary. The FESPACO Festival, the French acronym for the Pan-African Film and Television Festival of Ouagadougou, takes place in the Burkinabe capital every 2 years. Launched in 1969 and loosely modelled on the Cannes Film Festival, FESPACO provides an opportunity for African movie and TV professionals to network and pitch their work to clients in Europe, North America and beyond. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.